Today, I have a special guest for you here today. It's my good friend Lynda from all the way from Australia. But more importantly than that is her topic. It's talking about the human behavior and leadership. Now, this video is going to be for you if you are interested in the human mind and how our mind works, but more importantly, how our mind works when it comes to our colleagues, our clients, our spouses. How would you like to know the secret that when emotions go up or a little bit of a conflict happens or maybe someone's confused, how would you like to know the secret to be able to not only solve it, but to turn it around, get the buy-in from your team, and keep moving forward in seconds instead of having to spend weeks trying to deal with all that high school drama, right? So if you want to know that secret to human behavior and leadership in a very simple manner and start cracking open that nut, this video is for you. So be sure to check it out and, of course, subscribe, like, and comment to this video to get more videos just like this, and we'll be right back. So welcome back. I'm honored to be able to say I have a good friend and colleague with me from all the way from Australia, and she's going to focus on human behavior and leadership. But before we do that, Lynda, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Jason. I'm firstly really grateful and really excited to join you today. And, you know, an area very close to my heart, I like to share and specialize in human behavior and leadership, because at the core of how we show up in our business, what we do, you know, how we can work with our teams and our clients, it comes down to how we can manage that within ourselves. And I'm very, very passionate about that, and would love to share with you today.
Well, thank you. Well, I guess the first spot I'd like to start off is when you think about human behavior and leadership, like leadership, that's a popular topic, but I've never actually heard human behavior tied in with it. Do you have a different perspective of how you bring this all together?
I love that question. Actually, I do. I base this around what I call universal language, and it's about teaching language. I literally, you know, I'll go in and work with clients, and it's about teaching them what language is in a different way. So we focus, as crazy as this sounds, we focus on the language of the brain. Mm-hmm. And while we do that is we all carry the same operating equipment. So it really cuts through a lot of the challenges and the drama and the politics about leadership. And people can then understand what is their best way to lead, but also relate to other people. And it doesn't matter what country or culture we take this into, Jason, it just works because we all have that same system.
Okay. So it's about, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's about using the right language so people not only can understand you, but so you can also understand them. And so you're talking directly to the individual and almost removing a lot of those blocks that get in the way when we have a miscommunication. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is exactly correct. And, you know, the other piece to that is it's working out what our individual, how we communicate, what our language is. You know, I like to explain to people, on the surface, we all sound the same. We have that same dialect, if you like, but how you interpret the world is uniquely yours. So by letting people, you know, learn and understand how they interpret the world, but also why, because as human beings, we have this drive to know the why around what happens. So just, it's clarity, it brings clarity, and you know, it can happen that fast. You know, people will walk out and we'll do some practice stuff, and they'll come back and they go, that works, and this and that. And you know, the one key piece to this, Jason, is, you know, a lot of what we do is profiling, if you like, and that's a big word. Mm-hmm. But I like to explain to people, you know, we are all master profilers because of how our brain works. The difference is whether we're conscious of it or not. And all I'm doing is helping people to become more conscious of themselves. And that creates more consciousness of others. That's what it is.
So being aware of, for example, my sibling, there's certain words for her that common language for me, but for her, because they have a different definition, they trigger her and can sometimes frustrate her. So because I'm aware of that word being a trigger word for her, that allows me to be conscious of it when I'm having that conversation. Is that along the right line?
Absolutely. And you know what? That's where we tie the human behavior with the leadership, because when we know how to communicate at a higher, you know, a better level for other people, the leadership part kicks in, because knowing it gives us the responsibility to do it. And it makes communication, it takes away a lot of those breakdowns, a lot of those blockages. So that's where the two things tie in together, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Because I know my first thought is, what do you mean I have to change? But as a leader, let's be honest. If I want to achieve my goals, keep people moving forward, keep that high productivity, and have my team be happy, the only thing I can control is me. And so if I can switch my language or the form in which I communicate it or the tone in which I use to have a healthier, more productive team, then I'm going to do it. And that just makes perfect sense, right?
Exactly. And that's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
For your team, for your clients, for everyone that you work with. And you're right, leadership is responsibility. Someone has to be responsible for, where does that start? And it starts with us.
Yeah, because if we don't do it, then no one else is going to follow suit.
That's right. That's right.
So question for our viewers at home and everybody who's watching who either has their own business, whether they're small or big business, first off, am I correct to assume whether it's a small business of 3 or 5 versus a big business where you have hundreds of thousands of employees, this applies either way, correct?
It literally applies either way. I work with corporates, I work with small business. It's the same.
You work all around the world.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter where we are. We're people at the end of it. It cuts through all of those barriers.
So if someone was, if they've had an aha and they realize, wow, well, maybe that's why my assistant or my colleague got upset, or maybe that's why, no matter how hard we try, maybe that's why there's that disconnect in our communication or expectation. I don't know about you, but for me, I'll lay it an expectation, then not get what I expected and go, well, what happened here? But I know it's a language issue, it's a communication issue, or a difference in definition. So do you have any insights you could provide for someone who, if they're having the same aha I'm having, that they could go back to their business and apply right away?
Oh, so many. Absolutely. The first part is you have a level of awareness. It's being aware of how are my team, reacting. Is something being triggered, or the way that we work with our clients? The first step is always awareness and acknowledging that. But, very quickly, one of the most, is that okay if I just share one of the most powerful tips that will help anybody anywhere? Is that okay if I share that?
Oh, yes, please.
Awesome. Thank you. So the most powerful thing, well, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to actually demonstrate it. So Jason, in any conversation or in any situation, it doesn't matter if it's one-on-one or one-to-many, yeah. Who controls that situation, do you think?
Well, usually I like to think it's me. But I would say it's the person in control is the person usually asking the questions.
Bang, right? And I know that you know that. That is the absolute key. The person that asks the questions controls that conversation or that situation 100% of the time. So, if we work out with our team or whoever it is we're communicating with that there's an issue, the answer is simply in asking good quality questions. And as you've already said, it's making sure that our tone isn't, it's in the right place, but it's about drawing out information. One of our coaches, bless Singer, teaches us, the definition of education comes from the Latin word educar, which literally means to draw out information. And that's what questions are designed to do. So questions are the answers, if that makes sense.
Actually, that makes perfect sense. But just to make sure I'm understanding it properly, one, I love that definition. I've been a huge fan of that. Educate, to draw out of someone, to have them come to their own realizations, right? But if I'm hearing you correctly, how I apply this tip, and you're right, it's something I've used before just because we have similar background in training. And it's amazing how powerful that can be. But if I'm in a scenario, whether it's with my colleague, my coworker, or even my spouse, and I notice a flare up of energy, maybe a little bit of emotion, or confusion, or uncertainty, any of those emotional states, rather than reacting or responding or jumping in a heated scenario, jumping into it. Not that I would ever want to do that, but it's happened. What you're saying is the secret is to actually be aware, stop, as soon as I see that change in energy or the state change, Just stop and ask a question.
That's as simple as it is.
Wow.
Saying that, it's that simple. Saying that though, Jason, we're not taught how to do that in school. They don't teach us how to do that in the school system. So as basic as this is, and it is very simple, the way to learn it is by practicing it, and then it becomes a habit. When I teach, one of the things I'll do is we'll have what we call question afternoon. So it's a game. We're still teaching, we're still learning, but the goal is everything that we say we have to finish in a question. And we can have some crazy conversations, but it's all about creating that conscious awareness about flipping things into questions. So if I can give you an example, one of the industries I work in now is in the resource industry, and I go in and I work with all their leaders and their managers and their teams, and they have to give instructions, precise instructions, and there's a lot of safety challenges around that. And they say sometimes we get resistance, sometimes we don't. And I said, well, the way that part of the brain works, none of us like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Because if someone is telling us what to do, even though we might be employed and we know that's how it works, we feel like we don't have full control over who we are and what we do. So there's always going to be a level of resistance under the surface. So I'll say to them, here's an example. You're giving your team instructions, and you might say, so Jason, I might be giving you instructions. I might say, okay, Jason, listen, before we get to lunchtime today, we need you to do A, B, C, and D. You've got the team, you know what to do. Let me know if you need anything, but do you want to do A, B, and C, have lunch, and then finish D, or do you just want to do A, B, C, and D, and then maybe you can have a bit longer for lunch? What do you prefer? Yeah. Now, all I've done is I've given the exact same instructions, but I've done a bit of a flip here. I've closed it off with a question. Now, the important part of this question is I've offered options.
Yeah.
And as soon as somebody takes an option, now I find they'll either select option A or B, or occasionally they might go, well, what about this? And they'll present option C. And if that's feasible, great.
Yeah.
Because then they feel like they're in control. But all I've done is taken a statement, an instruction, I've made it into a question, and I've given somebody that feeling of being in control by allowing them to choose. And that is the key here. It literally changes, and there's no resistance.
That's powerful. I didn't think of many scenarios. But not only did you give them the power to choose and empower them, but you also gave an open opportunity to find an even better way because if they have another way, they'll provide it. Where if you just give a direct answer, sure, they're going to do what you want. But I don't know about you, but for me, I try not to be the smartest one in the room. So I want to hear other people's opinions and thoughts. And so by having that question, it sounds like it gives them power, takes away that, because I know I come across as I can sometimes be very aggressive in nature until I start talking, because I've learned the secret, right? But it also allows me to empower them, dismantle that authoritative figure, and also give them a chance to give feedback, all just by adding a question.
It's that simple. It is that. Honestly, if I had one thing that I could teach people anywhere in the world, this is it. It works at home, it works with your team, it works with your clients, it works up and down the corporate ladder. It's human nature, because that little part of the brain that I keep referring to, it's nicknamed the crocodile brain, the reptilian brain, if you like, or the limbic system, or anyway. But its one job is our survival, to keep you alive. So when it feels like you're in control of your choices, that takes us from being in that reactive state and allows the logical, focused thinking to come into play rather than reactive. So it's about making people feel like they can make decisions, feel safe in what they're doing, and takes away the resistance. So it creates buy-in very quickly. And that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah. How many of you out there would like your team to buy into what it is you have on the agenda, right? Wouldn't that be a powerful day at work? So what I've heard, because I'm going to start wrapping it up for the sake of time, and I'm really grateful that you've been here, and thank you for joining us. I know it's kind of late over in Australia right now, so very much thank you for joining us. It's either late or early. I'm not quite sure what your time zone. I know it's the opposite of me, so I'm assuming
it is. We're early mornings. It's been a beautiful start to the day.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. And to kind of summarize what I've heard is, one, step is be aware of us and where we're at and how we speak and what language you use with our client or with our clients, our team, our families, our kids. I'm sure this applies across the board. But not only to be aware of how we're communicating, but to be aware of others communicating to us that it may be different than how we're taking it. So we have to be able to kind of see it from both perspectives. In the scenario where that awareness kicks in, you notice something's happening, you can solve it with a question, is the second comment I've heard and the big takeaway I've had today. And that the third takeaway I have is that it is human nature that we have this survival, flight or fright type of mentality. And again, as a leader, that awareness thing, by being aware of that and just being a little bit more conscious of it, we can maybe see people's reactions for what they really are rather than maybe how we perceive them. Now, I know this is just the beginning of cracking open that egg. And I, for one, love anything to do with human behavior and leadership, because that's how we achieve great things together. So could I ask, if someone wanted to find out more about this or to learn more, how would we go about finding this out or getting in touch with you?
Oh, thank you, Jason. Easy here. Our website that anyone can go to and make contact is www.3pconcepts.com.au. Now that's the number 3,
Yeah.
P for Peter, and concepts. So 3pconcepts with an S on the end, .com.au, because I'm here in Australia. But I love to work with everybody around the world.
Perfect. Well, once again, Lynda, thank you so much. And of course, for more videos just like this, if you thought this was a powerful video, I know I did, be sure to hit that subscribe button or like and comment down below so that we can get the message out there and share this valuable information. And once again, Lynda, thank you so much. We do appreciate you joining us here today. And for all you at home, stay safe, check in often. We have more valuable content to come. Thanks again.
Thank you.